Hey, Gaming Geek here with another video. This is my Wave 3 of Shadows of Brimstone, all of the miniatures painted. I'll be showcasing that and giving you a close-up of all of these awesome miniatures in a little bit. But wanted to just tell you a little bit more about Shadows of Brimstone if you don't know about it. Back in October of 2013, they had a successful Kickstarter. This is Flying Frog Games, and they kickstarted Shadows of Brimstone. Now this game is sort of your Warhammer Quest fantasy replacement, and so fans of Warhammer Quest, which was an awesome game, but it was out of print, were looking for a replacement, and in fact, since the Kickstarter, they came out with Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, which I was super excited about. But this game is definitely not the old Warhammer Quest. So it's an okay game by itself, but is nothing like the original. And so really, if you want to experience like Warhammer Quest, Shadows of Brimstone is it. And I even like the theme, the Wild West theme, where portals are opened up to all these other dimensions and all these creatures and monsters that you can travel to other worlds. So this game is super fun. One of the downsides of the game is that there is no sort of story or narrative that ties everything together, and that was a weakness with Warhammer Quest as well. But there is a fan-made version that does provide some narrative called Hexcrawl, and you can download that for free on BGG. So props to the fans who really made this game even better. Now, this game, again, kickstarted back in 2013. It was super successful. They raised $1.3 million, which was more than I think they expected. And they overpromised because of that. They did not deliver by August of 2014 as they promised because they had so much material. And so they offered a 1.5 wave of shipping because the original shipping was just the 2 core box sets. And you could opt as a backer to have 1.5 shipping. So as a Minecart backer, which is pretty much getting everything, I received basically four different pickups or shipments. The first one, and then 1.5, and then 1.75, there was an option for people going to Gen Con to pick up some of their minis there. And then finally, this is the second wave. So basically, almost 4 years later, they have fulfilled everything that was promised in the original Kickstarter. And in fact, they have a second Kickstarter that just that I'm also going all in, which is Forbidden Fortress, which is this game, but in Japanese theme. And so I'm excited about that. But before we get into that, this is the Minecart, all of the miniatures from the Minecart pledge amount. And I'm really excited about it. One of the things, though, is if you're a Minecart backer, you have probably many, many years worth of gaming experience. In fact, I have barely sort of touched all of these different enemies that are available. I haven't seen most of them in the games that I've played. Now, I haven't played that much, but I'm looking forward to encountering all of these different monsters as you go along. It's sort of randomized. But one of the things that I have to give kudos to Flying Frog, even though it took many years for them to fulfill, I didn't mind for 2 reasons. One is the game material that they actually came out with wasn't just tacking on another world here, another world there. Each world has super cool, a super cool theme as well as new rules. And so it really does feel like the expansions adds a lot to the game. The second reason why I don't mind it coming out in different waves is it gave me a chance to paint these things in smaller groups, because if I would have received all of these minis all at once, there's probably no way I would have painted all of them. I would have looked at it and said, this is way too much, I can never paint all of these, and probably wouldn't have been able to accomplish all this. But because it came piecemeal, a little bit at a time, and a year in between, I was able to actually pace myself and paint this entire set, which is awesome. So it looks great. And one of the things too, if you haven't played Shadows of Brimstone, is this game is really fun. The leveling up system is awesome. There's upgrade trees to make your hero really different, even if someone else is playing the same class. So this is the kind of game that I really like. And then adding Hexcrawl to have a narrative that sort of holds the whole thing together. This is a great, super fun game. Now, it is probably one of the most fiddly games that I own. And what I mean by fiddly is it isn't that the rules are sort of complicated or fiddly. When I say fiddly, I mean it has a lot of parts. You actually have to manage a lot of tokens, character cards, monster cards. It just will take over your table. There's thousands of cards, and so it really requires a complicated system to play this game. And so I'm going to show in this video what system I have used, and a lot of it is player aids that other people on Board Game Geek posted. And so again, kudos to the fan base that really made this game really fun and exciting to play. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and first show you the miniatures and then go on to showing you how to manage the game. So here are the heroes that came with Minecart. It isn't all of them. I proxied a number of the hero miniatures because the later resin figures that came, like this gambler, you can see how it's shiny? Let me show you this one as well. It has some kind of mold release that is incredibly difficult to get off, and I found that paint doesn't stay on very well. And so I did paint a number of the resin miniatures like these guys. This cowboy is resin, the doctor, these Darkstone shaman, as well as the animals. But for the most part, oh yeah, these guys too, the samurai. But for the most part, I actually had an easier time painting Wild West Exodus miniatures, and they're pretty good. So instead of this gambler here, I proxied in this outlaw. This was part of the outlaw set from Wild West Exodus, and so this guy is really cool. So if you're having a hard time painting these resin miniatures, I would suggest just proxying them in. Over here I have Reaper miniatures. These are metal figs. These are the bones, but like This nun, I think, is one of my favorite miniatures of all time. I just love this figure. This one as well can be the Saloon Girl proxy. And then I really like this figure too. And then this boatload of miniatures. There's a couple of things that I 3D printed that doesn't come with the game. So for example, this Land Raider that I colored in the theme of the Tredarans, I 3D printed. And so obviously it doesn't come with the game. And then these cannons also are 3D printed, and I'll provide a link in the description section. You can go to Thingiverse. All of these are printed for free, as well as these little guns. These as well are 3D printed. So that just rounds out your Tredaran army with those. This has no gameplay value whatsoever, although the cannon and the guns do. This guy is probably my favorite miniature out of the whole set, Belial. And I think he looks awesome. I actually haven't fought him yet, so I have no idea what it's like to... In fact, I haven't encountered most of the miniatures from the game yet, so I have no idea what they're like. This raptor is super cool sculpt. I've always wanted sort of like a dinosaur for my D&D games, and so this guy, I think, is a really cool sculpt. Flying Frog really improved a ton in their miniature sculpts, as well as I think the printing got better and better from the first wave to the later waves. This is from the first wave though, first base set, and I think these guys are awesome. Look at that miniature. And so that was super fun to paint. I really liked painting the werewolves, different colors. They're pretty cool. These guys are amazing. The details in these guys, I really like these Necronauts a lot. And I think they look really cool. Again, I haven't even gotten into the derelict ship yet, so don't know what that's like. But the Tredaran expansion is awesome, so I'm confident that that's good. These guys were super fun to paint too, very quick because of how much texture they have, these sand crabs. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about this Kickstarter campaign, even though it took 3 years to deliver. I mean, look at all these minis, and it wasn't like Flying Frog Games just slapped together these expansions, but each expansion is super cool. Look at this guy, the Darkstone Hydra. I wish I would have painted his scales a little bit lighter, but he's awesome. There's 3 miniatures that I use the dip method, which is dipping them into Minwax stain. It's this guy here, the Kraken, which I think turned out great. And I also dipped this guy, the Terralisk. And, whoops, oh, breaking my miniatures. And also the Ancient one. This guy, I dipped after spray painting this olive green, and it just makes it super fast for painting or providing a shade. So this guy looks awesome, basically Cthulhu guy. And then I did buy an extra one of these guys. I think, I don't remember what they're called. They're not Guardians or something. But this, oh yeah, and this is the little terrain set that came. I think it's just cool to enhance or just stick by all your miniatures. So super impressed with these minis. This Lost Army, the details in that. You have the Sukubai, you have these cultists, which I think are super cool. And so, oh, and I did buy these resin. You had to buy these separately. This is Sergeant Bunker. Can I even find the other ones? Oh yeah, this guy from the Serpent Men. I mean, look at the detail on that. It's awesome. And then one more. Oh, the Void Magus. I don't know if it's Magus or Magus, but yeah, that guy looks awesome. So super impressed with the miniatures in this set. For example, look at how mushy the details are in the original set. So Flying Frog, I'm impressed. They shopped around and looked for a better printer, and I think the results of the later miniatures, like this guy, really shows the better detail, and it was really, really fun for me to paint these guys. Yeah, look at these. These guys are awesome too. So very impressed. I know this is FFG's first foray into miniatures, and I think they learned a lot over the last 3 years with this Kickstarter. And I did kickstart Forbidden Fortress, so I'm looking forward to seeing, and I think the details on those, and I'm so glad that they went back to printing the heroes in plastic rather than in resin. So here are some player aids that I use to manage this fiddly game. There's so many components now that I have all of the expansions, and I used to have a card holder, a vertical card holder, but there were so many cards that I transferred it into this art case. And I'll again provide a link because this is an art case from Hobby Lobby, and you can buy from the Broken Token this insert that allows you to store cards, and it's perfect. So this is basically all of the cards from all of the expansions and sleeved in high quality FFG sleeves. So it fits every single card that comes with the game, and it's super handy and helpful as you're going through and pulling out map decks from the map deck. I can have it all in one place. This box is super heavy. You don't want to tilt it over, but this thing is very, very handy to store all your cards. Okay, so one of the most difficult things to manage are actually the map tiles. And so how the system I came up with is using 2 of these file boxes. I need 2 of them because there are 6 total worlds worth of tiles to manage. And I basically stuck stickers on them. Let's see here. Right here I stuck a sticker, printed out these this code. D is for derelict ship, and this is tile number 4. I also have a sticker on the other side, and I just file it away in here. And basically how the system works is you draw a map tile. So this is from the derelict ship, and I cross-referenced it with the same sticker. So this is D7. So if I randomly draw this, I go to 7 here, and I look for, and I have, all of these are 7, but with a different code. I pull out D7, and I place this down. Now, this happens to also be an advanced encounter, and it's grinding gears, and I actually separated out the advanced encounters, and they're all number coded. And so this one is grinding gears D7, and so I look for that. These are all in order. Here's grinding gears, and we'll grab this one. And so when we set up the tile here, I have all the cards necessary to play that tile. And then when I'm done, I can just stick it all back. This is the Badlands, so this is a B8, and so on and so forth, along with the mission tiles I have. And then all of the hallways and intersections are here in the back. I didn't bother numbering them or sticking stickers on them. I can just go in there and grab the intersections and whatnot. So that's I did experiment with actually scanning these and using my digital tabletop, but the problem with that is it's actually takes longer to pull up the file on my computer and stick it on using Roll20. I think the digital tabletop works if we had pre-generated maps. If you're able to make your maps ahead of time rather than on the fly pulling out these tiles and building your map as you go along, it would actually work better to have a digital tabletop. But because we're generating it this way, it's actually quicker to physically pull these out and pull out the cards that you need. Otherwise, I thought it would be cool to just do it all electronically, but we're finding that it works better to do it this way. I've showed this in another video, but the other thing that's massively helpful is to have these town cards all put together. I scanned them and then created a little booklet, spiral bound. They're laminated, and so I printed enough of these out so that each player has their own town card sheets. And so this is from the first set, and then the later expansions are included here. And I found out with the final shipping, Wave 2 shipping, that there's actually more town locations with, I think it's the Badlands or Canyon, I don't quite remember. I am not going to bother to do a whole nother booklet for this new set, town locations, but this has been super handy because it was very difficult to share the town locations with 4 or 5 players. 2-player raids that is available in the file section of BoardGameGeek for Shadows of Brimstone, and I made this when the game first came out. I think Universal Head made their version, which is really good. You can print theirs out, and I think it has more updated rules. And also, more recently, I made a cheat sheet for all of the available side bag tokens. And on the other side are all of the condition markers and all of the enemy abilities that were printed on those cards. So for example, assault, formation, snapfire, shootout, consolidated all here so you don't have to go in and pull out the card for those conditions. Here is my initiative tracker. Thanks to Scott and a couple others. Shout out to them for creating files where I could print out each of the monsters as well as heroes that are available. And I printed this onto magnetic sheets and laminated the top and used a 3/4 inch hole punch to punch these guys out. There's so many monsters that came out that this used to be my board, but it was too small and couldn't hold all of the available monsters. And so this makes it easy whenever we go. I alphabetized it. Whenever we encounter someone, we stick our heroes onto the initiative tracker wherever they are, and then grab necessary monsters and we stick them in and line them up as initiative. Alright, here's the binder, which has a lot of other information. This is the signed copy that came with Kickstarter from the Flying Frog Games folks. And first up is all of the enemies, and I have a cheat sheet of how I ordered these, but basically I took the monster cards, scanned them, and shrunk them down to be smaller. Now this is going to be hard if you have need reading glasses, because you don't want to make these reference cards smaller, but the reason why I made it smaller is because it fits into this 4-pocket binder pages. And so I have it all alphabetized. I have a sticker here so that when I pull them out, I know where to put them back into. And so this makes finding the card for the monster super easy. I wish there was a way that I could store these in with each corresponding monster card. There's only some way that I could put a piece of metal or print it on something metallic or steel, so that the monster token would sit on there, but I couldn't figure out a way to do that, so they're separated for now. So all the monster cards are shrunk down. Now some of the monster cards I did not shrink down, like these extra large monsters, just because it would be impossible to read if you shrunk it down that much. So these extra large creatures, I'm using their original thing. Same thing, the ally cards are actually come as is, fits exactly into these 4-pocket pages. And so again, I'll try to provide links to Amazon where I purchased all of these. And then these are all of the heroes, and I did the same thing with their upgrade sheet. I scanned them and I shrunk them down so that it actually fits into these pockets. That way, as you get your player card, you also know what their upgrades are. And then a couple of the guys came with explanation sheets, and they already fit. I didn't have to scan them, but they already fit into the pocket with all the rest of the information. So again, this is a handy way to just look at all of the different heroes and pick the one that you want. The other thing is all of these millions of tokens, right? At first I was just having them sitting loosely, but found it almost impossible to sort through all of them to find the one that I wanted. So I used these coin holders. These pages, I was collecting the state quarters, and I had a couple of these sheets left over, and they work perfectly for holding all of your tokens. And so this makes referencing them really easily, so that you can pull out the ones that you need. Okay, let's talk tokens. This is how I manage all the tokens. First things first is, in another video I showed that I made these grit tokens out of fake bullets. I actually bought a bullet press and packed these with salt. And I love having like real bullets to use as grit tokens. So that's awesome. These are 9mm, by the way. I know it's not authentic to that time period, but hey, that's what's available. I also made these replacements for the tokens. This is the tonic, this is the bandage, this is the swamp fungus, this is the herbs, healing herbs, and then this is the flash powder, which is basically black sand. This is the whiskey, and although they're wine bottles. This is the dynamite, which are dowel rods tied together. And then this is, I actually bought these as the darkstone. I think this was for the preacher, and this lantern, obviously for the hero that's holding the lantern. Now, if I had known there was going to be this many tokens, I would not have made these 3D replacements, because all the other ones that came in later in wave 1.5 and 2, I did not bother making 3D versions of them. So instead, they are all in these, and again, I'll provide a link. I purchased a package of 10 of these, and they are awesome token holders. And so they're holding all these things. I think these are condition markers, and then these are the rest of the side bag items that I didn't bother making 3D versions of. And then some of the markers for the heroes to use. Here is, so I didn't place any token that had 3 or more versions of them. I put into this container, and then as you can see, all these other tokens that are going on. It's sort of madness what's going on there. So you're going to have to figure out a system that works for holding all the tokens. This is not efficient. It looks awesome to have these 3D versions, but space-wise it's going to take up a lot more space. Because I have a bullet press, I did make this for the gunslinger. So here, these are longer bullets. I don't remember what this was for, what caliber that is, but and then I just spray painted the casing for the different special bullets that he gets, and so he can load up his 6-barrel with whatever bullets that he needs. So I really think this is a cool player aid. The other thing too is I ran this pine through my table saw. So each player gets this to hold the billions of cards that you're going to get with upgrades, equipment cards, all that kinds of stuff. So these are super handy in holding a lot of cards for each player. We use this for money, these poker chips, and so I actually had to print this 500 chip to create this 500 chip. I printed it on a sticker. You can tell that I stuck it on there. And then for XP, we actually use these mini cards. So this is 5, 10, 25. I used a sticker to put on how much XP each card represents. So that's a fun way just to have some cards and have sort of a gambler feel or a Wild West feel to how we manage those tokens. So this is it for Shadows of Brimstone. I hope you get into this game. I hope you're able to paint your miniatures as well. Flying Frog really learned a lot from their first wave, and I think the quality of miniatures that they're pulling out is super, super good. I'm so excited to see Forbidden Fortress. I think they will have resolved all of the issues with resin miniatures, going back to plastic for the heroes. That's the right call. The details are amazing. So go out and get this game.